Traditionally, the beginning of the month is a busy one on the economic calendar, and this one is no exception. We'll talk about everything that's coming up next week with Bob Mason from FX Empire. This is The Week Ahead. Well, Bob, thank you for joining us as always. Always a massive pleasure to speak to you. I hope you're well. Let's jump straight into it, shall we? August starting next week. Traditionally, the beginning of the month is quite busy on the economic calendar, and this is no exception. What should we expect from the major currencies going into next week?
Busy week ahead on the economic calendar for the US dollar. We've got ISM survey PMI numbers for July. Non-manufacturing on Wednesday will garner the most interest. Key for the US economy is a rebound in service sector activity. Any contraction, expect risk sentiment to wane. That V-shaped recovery is obviously out the window for now with the second wave pandemic. On Wednesday, we've also got ADP non-farm employment change figures. That will garner some interest, but not really the key driver, as we will then focus our attentions to weekly jobless claims on Thursday and then non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate on Friday. For the Eurozone, private sector PMIs finalized numbers out of France, Germany and the Eurozone, and then numbers out of Spain and Italy as well. Service sector remains the main area of focus for now as the ECB and governments look for a service sector rebound. Obviously, issues over Spain's second wave pandemic, will test the markets. Second half of the week, numbers out of Germany, industrial production, factory orders, and trade data for June will provide further indications of what the second quarter looked like. Last week's second quarter GDP numbers will get adjusted based on the figures in the week ahead. And then finally for the pound, private sector PMI numbers, these are finalized numbers, should have a muted impact. Got the BOE in action on Thursday, however, that will be the main event. So will the BOE deliver or at least promise the delivery of more? UK economy is meant to be recovering quite nicely, so they may be able to stand pat and monitor Brexit progress.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, will there be anything noticeable in regards to the Commonwealth currencies?
Yeah, for the commodity currencies, for the Aussie dollar, busy first half of the week, manufacturing numbers on Monday, and then retail sales and trade figures due out on Tuesday. Expect the trade and retail sales in particular to garner the most interest. RBA is expecting and relying on consumer spending to support the economy. Main event of the week, however, is the RBA interest monetary policy decision. That's on Tuesday as well. Are they as confident as they were of an economic recovery from the last time round? We had that second wave, we had the border shutdown between Victoria and New South Wales. So how are they viewing that and the impact on the economy? So that's key for the Aussie dollar. Expect economic data from the likes of China, the EU and the US to also influence what the private sector numbers due out. For the loonie, we got trade data and employment figures at the end of the week. The employment figures will be a key driver. And then there's the IV PMI on Friday as well. But expect employment to be the main driver for that. And then for the Kiwi dollar, we got second quarter employment numbers on Wednesday. Markets may be a little bit forgiving on that. Obviously COVID-19 pandemic would have affected employment even with a recovery in hiring late in the quarter. So those are the key drivers. And outside of the economic calendar, you're going to have to monitor COVID-19 numbers.
And what about the Asian markets?
Relatively busy week for the Japanese yen. Beginning of the week, we got second quarter GDP numbers. There's been some pretty dire stats out of Japan through the second quarter, so we're not expecting anything great there. Obviously continuing to be affected by COVID-19 on global trade and domestic economy. Midweek, we got inflation figures and service sector activity on Wednesday, the PMI to focus on. These are finalized numbers though, so we shouldn't expect too much on that. At the end of the week, however, household spending will be of particular out. That's been on the dive, so further weakness will be another test for the BOJ and the Japanese government. For the out of China and the Chinese yuan, we got private sector PMIs, obviously particularly interest in manufacturing sector activity, but expect service sector activity to also garner plenty of interest. These are the Kaisen numbers, so they draw significant interest from the markets. At the end of the week, got trade data, again, another key stat for the markets. And how's China doing? Are they ramping up imports to start mass producing, or is it still on the decline? So these are the key areas to look at.
Fantastic. Finally, just to finish up, Bob, as we always do, let's move a little bit away from the economic calendar and look over at geopolitics and non-macroeconomic news. What should we be looking out for there?
Away from the economic calendar, we got obviously US-China tensions. That's not dissipated yet. So that's going to be an area of focus. There's obviously Brexit, any updates on that? We've seen the pound knock on the door at 130 against the dollar. So any optimism on Brexit, and we could see further upward momentum as the dollar struggles, near term. Other areas to focus on, however, got to be looking at COVID-19. We're hearing about the vaccines not likely to be globally available until mid-2021. We're having a second wave at the moment. Economies are being hit again. We've not really heard of a third wave, however, as the winter months approach. So how's that going to play out? We've got no progress on treatment. Progress is being made on vaccines, but not to the point where it can be widely available to prevent, another economic meltdown. So these COVID-19 numbers we need to keep an eye on near term.
Absolutely, fantastic stuff. Thank you very much, Bob. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Take care of yourself, and we'll speak to you again very soon indeed. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, head over to dugoscopy.tv and follow us across our social media platforms. Take care. See you again soon.